Layla woke up early every morning. The sun had not yet risen, and the air was cool. She could hear the sound of the waves crashing against the shore as she got out of bed. The small cottage she shared with her mother and older brother, Amir, was simple but warm. The room was filled with the smell of salt water, and the soft light of dawn crept through the wooden windows. Layla's life had always been about taking care of others. Ever since their father had died, she had become the one who looked after the home. Her mother, who was getting older and tired, depended on her. Amir, her older brother, needed her too. He was a fisherman, spending long hours out at sea. He worked hard, but he couldn't do everything by himself. Layla made sure he had a warm meal waiting when he came back from the docks, and she kept the house neat and tidy. But Layla often felt something missing in her life. She had never complained, but there were days when she felt the pull of the world outside the village. The ocean was vast, and beyond the horizon, there were other places, other people, and ideas she could only dream of. Yet, no matter how much she yearned for change, her life seemed fixed in place. After she finished her chores, Layla would sit by the window and sing. Her voice was soft and gentle, a sweet melody that carried over the sound of the waves. She had been told many times that her singing was beautiful, and the people in the village loved hearing her songs. It was one of the few things that made her feel like she was part of something bigger, something beyond the small circle of her family and village. One day, as she sang her song, Amir came in. He had just returned from the docks, his shirt damp from the sea. His face was hard, but his eyes softened when he heard Layla's voice. "Your voice is nice, Layla," Amir said, his tone gruff but kind. Layla smiled, but there was a sadness in her heart. She loved her brother, but she felt trapped. She didn't know how to explain it to him, how to tell him that she wanted more than just taking care of the house. But it was hard. Amir was stubborn, and he had always relied on her. She knew he wouldn't understand. "Thank you, Amir," she replied softly. "I just wish sometimes I could see more of the world." Amir looked at her, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean? You have everything you need right here, Layla. Our family needs you." Layla felt a pang in her chest. She knew he meant well, but it was becoming harder to ignore the dreams that whispered in her mind. Still, she couldn't leave. Not now, not when Amir needed her so much. A few days later, a conversation took place that would change everything. It happened one evening when the three of them were sitting together after dinner. The fire in the hearth crackled as the wind blew gently outside, carrying the scent of salt and the sea. Layla's mother, Fatima, looked at Amir with a serious expression. "Amir, You are getting older. It's time for you to think about your future, about starting your own family. Amir frowned. I don't need anyone. Layla takes care of everything. She's all I need. Fatima looked at Layla with a sigh. Layla cannot stay with you forever, Amir. She has her own life to live. Layla's heart skipped a beat. Her mother was right. She couldn't stay forever, but the thought of leaving made her feel guilty. She had always put her family first. But now, for the first time, she felt a pull towards something more. Layla glanced at Amir, hoping he would understand. I love you, Amir, and I want to help. But sometimes I feel like there's more for me out there. I want to learn new things, meet new people. I want to help others, not just stay here. Amir's face hardened, his jaw tightening. No, he said firmly. You belong here. You're needed here. You can't just leave us behind. Layla felt her heart ache. She didn't want to hurt him, but she couldn't ignore her own feelings any longer. She needed to see the world, to find something that was hers, something she could be proud of. Fatima looked between her two children, sensing the tension. Amir, we must let her go. If she stays, she will only be unhappy, and I want my daughter to be happy. Amir turned away, his face set in anger. I won't let her go, he muttered under his breath. The days that followed were difficult for Layla. She loved her brother, but his refusal to understand her needs weighed heavily on her heart. It was as if her dreams were locked inside her, waiting to be freed. But every time she thought of stepping outside, something held her back. Safiya, her best friend, was the only one who understood. Safiya had always been full of ideas and energy. She often talked about the future, about what she wanted to do, and how she planned to see the world. Safiya wasn't like other girls in the village. She was independent and fearless, always ready for an adventure. One day, as Layla sat with Safiya by the shore, watching the boats return with the day's catch, Safiya spoke up. You know, Layla, you can't keep living like this, Safiya said. You're more than just someone's daughter or sister. You're strong, smart, and capable. There's so much you can do if you just give yourself the chance. Layla sighed, looking out at the ocean. I don't know, Safiya. Amir won't let me. He needs me here. Safiya shook her head. Layla, you can't let him control your life. You have dreams too. You can help the village in so many ways. But first, you have to see what's out there. Layla looked at her friend, her eyes filled with uncertainty. But I don't know how to leave. How can I leave my family? You don't have to leave forever, Safiya said with a grin. Just go for a little while. See new things, meet new people. You'll come back stronger, and everyone will benefit from what you learn. It's time for you to have a life of your own. Layla's heart fluttered at the thought. Could it really be that simple? Could she leave for a while and still come back to help her family? One day, while Layla was walking along the beach, gathering shells for a small craft project, she noticed a man approaching from the distance. He was tall, with dark hair and a kind face. He looked different from the men in the village. His clothes were finer, and he carried a large bag over his shoulder. Layla had never seen him before. As he came closer, he smiled at her. "Hello," he said, his voice warm and friendly. "You have a beautiful voice. I heard you singing earlier." Layla blushed. She wasn't used to strangers complimenting her so openly. "Thank you," she said shyly. "I love the ocean. It makes me feel peaceful." The man nodded. "The sea has a way of doing that to people. My name is Hassan. I'm a merchant, traveling between villages. I've heard of your village before, but this is my first time here." Layla smiled politely. "I'm Layla. Welcome to our village." Hassan's eyes sparkled. "It's a beautiful place. I'm sure it has much to offer. I travel a lot, and I've seen many villages. But there's something about this one that feels special." Layla felt a warmth in her chest. "I think it's the people. We all look out for each other." Hassan nodded. "That's the way it should be. But sometimes the world beyond the village has more to offer. What would you say if I told you there's more to see, more to learn? You could visit the next village with me and see how they live, learn new things, and bring those ideas back here." Layla's heart raced at the thought. Could she really leave? Could she take a step toward the unknown? Amir stood by the door, his arms crossed tightly across his chest. His face was set in anger, and his eyes burned with frustration. Layla had just told him about her meeting with Hassan, and the idea of leaving the village for a little while to explore what the world had to offer. He had been sitting quietly for a while, processing her words. Now, his voice broke the silence, hard and sharp. "You're not leaving, Layla," Amir said, his words filled with finality. Layla flinched at his tone. She had expected some resistance, but the way he spoke made her heart sink. It wasn't the first time he had tried to control her life, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like everything she had dreamed of was slipping away. I thought we talked about this," Layla said quietly, trying to keep the trembling from her voice. "I want to help the village, but I need to see more. I need to learn." Amir shook his head angrily. "You think you need to leave to learn something? You're wrong. Everything you need is here. You're needed here, by me and by our mother. Layla felt a sharp pang in her chest. She loved her family, but the weight of Amir's expectations was suffocating. She had always put their needs first, but it was becoming too much. You don't understand, she whispered. I need something for myself. I want to see the world, to meet new people, to learn new things. I can't stay here forever, Amir. His expression hardened even more, and he stepped forward. No, Layla. You have your duty here. You have no business running off to some faraway village. You're not going anywhere. Layla's heart broke as she looked into his eyes. She had never seen him so angry, so determined to hold her back. But deep inside, she knew she had to leave. She couldn't keep living her life for someone else. I don't want to fight, Amir, she said softly, her voice trembling. I just want to follow my dreams. But Amir was firm, unyielding. Then, you don't belong here, he said, his words cutting through her like a blade. Layla felt her throat tighten. The one person she had always counted on to understand her was now the one who was pulling her back. Her eyes filled with tears, but she fought them back, refusing to let Amir see her cry. I'll go anyway, she whispered, more to herself than to him. That night, Layla sat by the window, staring out at the sea. She had never felt more torn in her life. Amir's words echoed in her mind. He had always been protective, but now it felt as though he was trying to hold her down. She knew it wasn't just about her leaving. It was about his fear of losing her. She was his rock, the one thing in his life that hadn't changed since their father's death. But her dreams were calling to her, and she couldn't ignore them any longer. The moonlight was soft, casting a pale glow over the ocean. Layla could hear the sound of the waves, rhythmic and soothing, but it didn't calm the storm inside her heart. She had always been the caretaker, always the one to put others before herself. But she had finally reached the point where she couldn't ignore her own needs. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Sophia. Layla stood up, wiping her eyes quickly, and opened the door. Sophia, what are you doing here? I came to see you, Sophia said, her eyes soft with understanding. I know you're struggling, and I want to help. You can't let Amir hold you back, Layla. You deserve more than this. Layla stepped aside, letting Sophia in. I don't know what to do, Sophia. Amir is so angry. He says I can't leave. Sophia shook her head. He's scared, Layla. He doesn't want to lose you. But you have to think about yourself too. You can't keep living your life for someone else. You have so much to offer, and you can't keep it all hidden here. Layla sat down on the small bench by the window. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to leave him alone, but I feel like I'm suffocating. I know, Sophia said gently, sitting beside her. I understand. But you have to go, Layla. You have to follow your dreams. You're meant for something more than staying behind in this little village. Layla looked at her friend. Her eyes filled with uncertainty. But how? How can I leave? Sophia smiled softly. I'll help you. I'll make sure everything is taken care of while you're gone. Your mother won't be alone, and Amir will see that this is good for everyone. You'll come back with new knowledge, new ideas. You'll be able to help this village in ways no one else can. Layla hesitated. But what if Amir doesn't understand? He will, Sophia said confidently. Once he sees how much you've grown, he'll understand. He just needs time. Layla looked out at the ocean again, her heart heavy but hopeful. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are, Sophia said firmly. You've always been strong, Layla. This is just the next step in your journey. Layla took a deep breath. She could feel the weight of the decision, but it also felt like a release. The path ahead was uncertain, but she knew it was the right one. The next morning, Layla packed a small bag with a few clothes, a few coins, and some simple food for the journey. She said goodbye to her mother, who was understanding but sad, and to Amir, who was still angry, but said nothing as she left. Sophia walked with her to the edge of the village, where the road led to the next town. Remember, Layla, Sophia said, you're doing this for yourself. And when you come back, you'll be able to help more than ever. Layla nodded, her heart a mix of excitement and fear. Thank you, Sophia. I don't know what I would do without you. You'll be fine, Sophia replied with a smile. Just don't forget who you are, and don't let anything change you. Layla took a deep breath and began walking toward her future. Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.